Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit.
Welcome all you citizens of the world. I'm Michael James, and it's time for another edition of the Live from the Heartland show. This is for the week of May 30th, and today we're going to have three guests. We're going to have Mud Morganfield, the son of the legendary Muddy Waters, and we'll have Lynn Orman, our music producer, give us a little bit of calendar information for music events you may want to check out. And we'll wind up the show with Cousin Adam James and his early summer sports report. You know, the right wing talks a lot about woke and that term. So I looked it up, and I would like to have a little history lesson here. The phrase stay woke and the term woke itself have roots in black culture. It has a real strong connection to the Scottsboro Boys case. In 1938, Leadbelly, a.k.a. Huddy Ledbetter, the blues musician, recorded a song, Scottsboro Boys, where he warned people to stay woke when traveling through Alabama as he described the harsh realities for black people there. The term woke originates from African American English, has been used since the 1930s or even earlier to refer to awareness of racial prejudice and discrimination, often in the phrase stay woke. It evolved to encompass a broader awareness of social inequalities, including sexism, LGBTQ rights, and has also been used as a shorthand for ideas of the American left. Now, some of you may not remember or know about the Scottsboro Boys case, so I'm going to tell you that the Scottsboro Boys were 9 African-American male teenagers accused of raping 2 white women in 1931. The landmark set of legal cases from this incident dealt with racism and the right to a fair trial. The cases included a lynch mob before the suspects had been indicted, all-white juries, rushed trials, and disruptive mobs. So when you hear that term being used by the right wing, know what it means. It means something that we should take really seriously, and all of us should be staying woke because we're in a very difficult time. A little bit more on some negative things going on in the world. The tragedy in Gaza continues with over 54,000, mostly women and children, killed by the Israeli troops. We have a similar situation in the Ukraine, a lot of other things going on in Africa, not to mention that we have serious problems here at home with the current administration. You know, last week I mentioned on the show that England and France and Canada had all started to pressure Israel. Germany has now joined that, but as Mike Klonsky, the host of Hitting Left, says, too little, too late. And that's true, but we have to keep at it. So everybody do what you can to raise awareness. You may want to join people in your neighborhood who are lining up on corners with signs, getting honks from cars when they say, end this terrible situation, et cetera, et cetera. So enough of that. That's our little history lesson for today. We're going to take a short musical break, hear a little bit of Mud Morganfield's music, and we'll be right back with Mud Morganfield.
One morning and I couldn't see. I couldn't see the forest out beyond the trees. Then a voice said to me, I'm gonna set you free. And all I'll ask of you, you tell the people about me, and I'm gonna praise him.
Okay, welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of May 30th, and it's really an honor now to bring on a regular old guy, the son of Muddy Waters, the one and only Mud Morganfield. Good morning to you, Mud.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good, and I'm glad to get you up so early.
I'm glad to be here, man. Speak.
You know, I was honored to have your two brothers on the show. We had Big Bill way back at the Heartland Cafe, and then we had your late brother Joseph Mojo Morganfield on. We were at the WLUW studios.
You just skipped over old Poe Mud, didn't you? You just skipped over.
Well, we're getting to you.
All right.
So, hey, how about we start off? You tell me a little bit about your experiences growing up in Chicago. You know, you're the son of a really legendary musician. You had to carve your own path.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about growing up here in the big old
everybody know, man, Chicago was a rough city, man. You know, I had to fight every day in Chicago almost, man. They didn't care about me being Muddy Waters' son or B.B. King's son. But I like that. You know, I proved myself. So, you know, like I said, Chicago was a rough time. I was around when the dad, Daley, was in office. So yeah.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to school at Hess Upper Grade Center, and I went to Harrison for a few years, graduated from Harrison, took a break for quite a few years, and then went to DeVry and got a degree in social service and stuff, and pretty much landed in music.
What landed you in music? I understand that you, after your dad's death in '83, you were driving trucks then, and then you decided to become a serious professional musician. What was that all about? What led you to that situation?
I tell you what, and I've told it many times. My dad used to always appear to me in a dream, and he would always be performing. He never would say nothing to me, and I'd be just talking and talking. He wouldn't say anything, and that kind of persuaded me to come out. And my mom and I was watching some kind of program on television once. It was a tribute to Dad. And we saw Dr. John, Buddy Guy, we saw Big Bill, we saw everybody on this show but me. And I looked over to my mom and she was tearing. I said, what's wrong, Mom? She said, they didn't mention my boy. And I vowed to her that day forward that they'll mention you from now on. That was the straw that broke the camel back. I mean, she looked through all the critics waiting to hear something about me, not a word. So here I am.
Your mom's name was Mildred Williams, and you know, she's really important in your life. I know that she passed away. Talk a little bit about your mom and her influence on you.
I don't want to talk too much because it's still fresh. I just lost her last month, and as we speak now, I'm packing up a few of her things and giving them to Goodwill and different needy people who may want this stuff. My mom was actually a diva. She loved to dress beautifully, and I think that might have been what caught Dad's eye. You know? And I remember she told me a story how she met him. She was walking past a club, Marie Dixon, or Willie Dixon White. They used to hang together. And Muddy came to the door and said, hey, where you going, young girl with all that long, pretty hair? You know, my mom had hair down her back. And said, I know you ain't talking to me all the time. That's why you went past the club. So pretty much that was the story with my mom, man. And she became my best friend. You know, Dad was on the road all the time, you know, making a living for us and his families and stuff. And my mom, you know, she became my dad and my mom. She's the one who put the bandages on my knee when I fell off my bicycle, you know.
That's what moms do.
That's what they do, to the bitter end, man.
Well, when did you start playing music, and what was your first instrument?
Oh, man, my first instrument, I was a drummer. Well, let me just tell you, when they say you were born in the blues, that is me. I remember nights as a kid, 2, 3, 4 years old, I couldn't sleep unless I tap on my mattress to put me to sleep. Music have ran through my body from the day I was conceived. And I started off as a drummer because I learned later it wasn't just the beats. It was my dad's genes, and I couldn't escape. And Dad used to buy me a set of drums every Christmas for quite a few years. and I went to see a Earth, Wind and Fire show and saw Badell playing the bass, and that did it. So I picked the bass up.
So you took up the drums and then you switched to the bass.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about bass playing in general. You know, I mean, what's the role of the bass player in a band, and just a little bit about why the bass is so crucial to the music.
Oh man, the bass player and the drummer is the driving force. You know, anything James Brown. You know, James Brown had two drummers. You know, and he had Bootsy Collins as a bass player. So need I say anymore? That beat is always, that driving force is always the key. So everything else fit on top of that. Guitars, pianos, everything else fit on that rhythm.
Do you when you perform these days? Do you have just one bass, or have you ever decided to have two bass players?
You know what I mean? I tell you, you know, every song you ever heard from me in my name, I wrote by the bass player. I wrote my bass in my home. And I always felt that I wasn't a well enough bass player to play openly. So I was always giving my bass playing to this fantastic bass player called E.G. McDaniels, who happened just to be the son of Floyd McDaniels. And he also played bass for Jimmy Burns for years. So I use E.G. and he brings my bass playing alive for me.
One of the things I'd like to talk a little bit about is you've been going to Europe and had some really great success over there with a lot of sold out shows.
Yeah.
And you know, the true thing is a lot of musicians, particularly African American musicians, blues musicians, found a better home or appreciation for their music when they went abroad.
I had to wait till you say that.
Talk a little bit about what it's like playing in Europe, and when you come home, what the situation is.
Let me tell you, those audience, you won't hear you can hear a cat walk over cotton. I mean, it's just the respect they give. There's no loud talking. There's no loud laughing. They're into Chicago blues. They're into the blues, period.
Do you tell me a little bit about the Ronnie Scotts in England?
I love it. I love it. Small club, but very well known. I did Ronnie Scott's. I did the Albert Hall. I've been on the Jewel Holland show a couple of times, live TV there. It's a great club. I've been there a few times. Great club. And I played Boysdale. It's a famous restaurant club. Probably one of the famous in London. You know, so I've been around a little bit.
Well, I understand you just came back from China. You were over there playing that, you know, at a time when the current president of our country is bad-mouthing China all the time. I wonder what your experience was over in far across the sea there.
I was treated with the utmost respect. Whether nothing I wanted for, it was very, very, very beautiful.
How many shows did you do in China?
I think it was 6.
You got to see a little bit of the country. I know a lot of times the musicians, you know, they show up in one town, they play the show, and they're on the road to the next one. They don't get to stay and look around much. Any different for you?
No different. I was in Shanghai. I went to Beijing and a few more countries I can't pronounce. But that's same for me. But I did get a chance to see a few temples and stuff, and sometimes I post them on Facebook just so you know the world can see. It's really a nice place, and you know.
Well, let's talk about coming back home here to Chicago. Is Chicago your home base these days?
Chicago. I was born and raised here, man. Chicago is my home. Cook County Hospital.
It's a great place. It's a great hospital. It really is.
Well, it used to be even better. I ain't gonna say because I'm in Rush now. I go to Rush now, but Chicago, man, I tell you, it is a great place, and I just think the difference for me is that I didn't see a lot of racism You know, especially in London, it was so diverse. It had Indians, Asians, you name it, Scottish, you name it. Everybody was in London. So, I feel really comfortable.
What's the situation with you here in Chicago in terms of music? Have you felt like you've gotten the accolades that you're due? Are you sort of carving it out?
No, because I feel like a lot of guys is like, hey, we've had one Muddy Waters, and everybody now wants the light to shine on them, which I don't mind, but I have to do what I got to do. I've tried early on to sing Tyrone Davis and Johnny Taylor songs, and surprisingly, every one of them came out still like Muddy Waters. I tried. I couldn't get nowhere else.
Well, you did an album on Delmark called Pops, a tribute to Muddy Waters. And I know you got a new album coming out. Why don't you talk about both those albums, the first one you did and the one you're getting ready to release?
Well, Pops, the tribute to Dad was actually on Servant Records. It wasn't on Delmark.
Uh-huh.
It was on Servant Records. Portrait was done on Delmark Records. And the one I'm finna do now, it's raw Chicago blues. No mix, no chaser, no guitar solos over the top, none of that. It's just down to earth Chicago blues.
And when you play and you perform, do you do all your own stuff or do you do some of your dad's stuff?
I do a lot of my dad's stuff. I tell you, I mean, I never thought that this man was loved so much like that. I don't care where I go. Went to Russia. They couldn't speak a word of English. China, the same thing. I started out singing Hoochie Coochie Man or something, and they went to screaming and jumping around. I was like, oh, my God. And, they loved it, man. They couldn't even speak it, but the music, they have heard it everywhere. Yeah. Even in Russia. That's really was amazing for me as a son. And I was just really, really grateful to be a son of Muddy Waters.
Have there been any downsides you being the son of a famous musician?
Sure, it's always a double-edged sword. Sure, you know that. It's always a double-edged sword, Well, I can go get Muddy Waters records. I'm talking about a couple labels that me and Lynn was pitching to was saying that, I heard Muddy Waters before, woo. But if you listen to my albums, there's a bunch of original stuff that I write. And I'm real particular about writing something that sounds like I've written before. Real particular about that. I don't want you to say, oh, that's that same song. No, it's not. I dig deeper than that. So.
And I know that your brother Mojo, who we had on the show, as I think I said at the top, he was a musician. What about your brother Bill? Does he do music too, or is he into some other work? And which one was the basketball player?
Joseph was the basketball player in Westmont College. He was a great basketball player. And Dad tried to get him to play music, but Joseph was a sportsman. He loved basketball. His sons play football now, and he loves sports. So that didn't work. And Bill was actually the first one who picked up the guitar after Dad passed. And that was because, folks asked you, hey, well, where you been? Well, I had to go get some blues first. I'm like, Dad, now you just don't get up and go outside and say, hey, look at me, I got the blues. That's not real blues. You got to go through something, alcoholism, cancer survivor, drug addiction. You got to go through something to get some real blues, man. So I've been out there, I got my blues, and I came on in. And here I am.
You're doing good now.
I appreciate that, man. I can't be a more honorable son than to leave a legacy with respect to my dad.
Well, your dad was a big influence on me. I think I sent you a photograph of a picture I took of your dad back in 1962.
I couldn't open it.
I'll send it to you. No, it's a picture
of
James Cotton in Muddy Waters at a place called the Fat Black Pussycat, and it was in the spring of 62 or the fall of 62.
I'll never forget that name. You watch. I'm sorry.
So you got some You got some events coming up. I know you're going to be out at Fitzgerald's on June 6th. A couple days later, you're going to be part of a show down at the Blues Fest for honoring Chess Records. Tell us a little bit about those two events, who you're going to have playing with you, and what people might expect when they take the long journey out to Fitzgerald's or the shorter journey downtown to hear the Blues Fest.
Well, you know, I always try to surround myself with great blues artists. It's the only way you're going to get the best sounds. So I got Rick Craig, who's actually my right-hand man, and he's my last guitar player before his passing. I use Studebaker John, who must have maybe 30 albums out, you know, and I also have a great horn player called Phil Perkins. And on some of my tunes, he step in and he blows his tail off. I have Pookie Sticks on drums because he's Buddy Guy's drummer, but he's a fantastic drummer. I have Ario. Yeah, he's from China. He went to China with me. He's Billy Branch's keyboard player. So I have some of the best. I take some of the best in the studio. On this album I got coming out, Mike Willer's on there. Roosevelt, I don't know his which I don't want to pronounce his name wrongly, but Roosevelt is on there. Who else on there? I have some great background singers. It's a nice album.
Mud, tell me a little bit about the trials and tribulations of being a band leader. I just finished a book by James McBride on James Brown, and it really went into the highs and the lows. I wonder, in your experience, what kind of some of the great things about being a band leader and some of the more difficult and challenging things.
Well, for me, all the great thing about being a band leader is respect. You know, I respect them. They respect me. I'll pay you to come do a job. If you can do it, come do it. And here's your money. We grown men. I don't have to pay you tomorrow. I'm going to pay you when you're done. A day's pay and a day's work. And the worst thing I really get kind of about is someone canceling my date for a higher price date, almost at the last minute. You know, the dog ate my homework, my guitar, he kicked it off the floor, that kind of thing. And usually when you do that to me once, that's it. I can't trust you. If you can't do it, you tell me in the beginning you can't, and I'll look around because Chicago is full of great musicians. So.
Well, speaking of great musicians in Chicago, who do you listen to? And you definitely have strong influences in the blues coming through your family, and you've been around a lot of people. But as a current guy now in the year 2025, if you're going out, who do you go hear? Or if you're buying a record or a CD or listening, what's coming your way?
Well, I'm like you, man. I'm old school, so I'm old school. Half of my children, man, was cause of Barry White, right? So I'll tell you, I can't stand Barry White. No, I love Barry White. Half of my children, man, a couple of my children is from Barry White, man, I tell you. And I'm from that Motown era, and it was kind of rough for me because I didn't know if I wanted to venture that gender or continue the legacy of my fathers. So, I struggle with that because actually, and you'll hear that on some of my records, like this one coming out. You hear that in Ernestine. You hear that in Getting Your Groove On. Those just the name of a couple of them. You'll hear that kind of Motown stack records kind of sound. And even some Louisiana, got one Louisiana style to it. I mean, because I didn't come up in the South. I didn't get a chance to experience some of that plantation living. I was born and raised here in Chicago. It was still prejudice and racism, but it didn't really affect me like it might affect my ancestors back then, So I was more in tune to Earth, Wind and Fire, Stevie Wonder, people like that. But yeah, I was influenced by those kind of musicians and artists. My peer pressure, the Dales, people like that. That's what I was cut from.
Well, Mud Morganfield, it's really great to meet you. I don't know if I'm going to get all the way out to Fitzgerald's, but I want people to know that you're going to be playing at Fitzgerald's on Friday, June 6th. 2 days later, you're going to be at the Blues Fest, and you have a new album coming out. It'll be released in September on the WLUW label. And we got about one more minute of parting words. I know you're going to Sweden this summer. You're going to Denmark in the fall. Give me 30 seconds of good conversation going out.
Well, the only thing I can say is this is for all you young listeners, all you new coming guys who's just starting out. My advice to you is don't believe the hype. Meaning, you do not need a drug or alcohol to play or sing better. You use what God gave you. That will not you may think you sound better, but the people who listen to you, please believe me, you'll sound horrible. Stay clean, use what God gave you.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to meet you in person. It won't be long, I'm sure.
I got a CD coming to you too when it's out.
Right on. And I'm going to send you that picture I took of your dad way back.
Yeah, I like that.
It was back in 1962. Okay, everybody, stay tuned here on the left end of your dial or however you're getting the Live from the Heartland show. We're taking a musical break, a station ID break, depending on where you're getting it. And we'll be back with the one and only Lynn Orman, who is our music producer. And she's going to give us about 5 minutes of what's coming up, because there's a lot of music to hear in this town.
I didn't have my baby by my side. Well, when the sun rose this morning, I didn't have my baby by my side. Well, I didn't know what she was. She was out with another guy. Well, don't the sun look so lonesome, sitting down behind the tree.
All you citizens of the world, welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of May 30th. And after that really wonderful interview and good time with Mud Morganfield, we're going to have a little bit more music information. We're going to deal with the mind-boggling situation confronting us all here in Chicago about so many good musicians to go out and hear them play. And Lynn Orman, who is our wonderful music producer, is going to join me right now. Good morning to you, Lynn.
Good morning, Michael.
It's great to see you at your kitchen table there with that beautiful, Chagall-like painting behind you. I don't know who did that painting.
Nicholas Barron.
Nicholas Barron, Rogers Park. Great artist.
Yeah.
Okay, Lynn, you got a lot of information for us. Take it away.
There's so much going on, Chicago style, from the south side of Chicago to the west side to the north side, and of course downtown Chicago. Let's just say I'm really excited about Mud Morganfield at Fitzgerald's. Fitzgerald's has a brand new covered space Friday night, June 6th at Fitzgerald's. He's going to be doing a sneak preview of a few of his new songs from his new record that'll be out. But if you start out in the blues, I would say start out on Sunday. First, you got to listen to my radio show, 2 to 4 on WNUR. And then you've got to go over to Delmark, which is 4121 Rockwell. They're going to be doing acoustic blues music from 3 to, I believe, 7 p.m. with a great new photography show opening. Maybe if you're in town, you should come, Michael. Jean-Marc Grabeau is putting in his photo show. Dave Spector just took his down. Then Monday, The Mojo Museum, actually Muddy Waters House, is going to be featuring John Primer from 5 to 7 p.m. And then, oh my God, it's crazy. You've got Big Lou Johnson on Wednesday evening is going to kick off Blues Fest evening with a big party and a fundraiser at Buddy Guy's Legends. The doors open there at 5. The show, there's acoustic music, but the show starts with a mind-boggling amount of singers. Nellie Tiger Travis, Dawn Tyler Watson. It's going to be the Fernando Jones Trio, and this is all led with a house rock and blues band, with the band leader being John Kotke. And then Thursday, our great friends who we've had on air, Bobby Rush, is going to be at the new Ramova Theater. Have you been there? In Berwyn. It's a brand new, it's a historic old theater they converted. And on Wednesday, they're going to do, by the way, Chicago offers up all of this amazing music for free. So it's the largest blues festival in the world, and it's all free in Millennium Park.
And what are the dates, the end and the beginning and end of the Blues Fest this year?
It starts on the 5th at Ramova. That was free, but it was ticketed. I think that might be sold out. It's Bobby Rush and Billy Branch with a couple of panels from Living Blues Magazine. And then it kicks off in Millennium Park on Friday night with the tribute to B.B. King, the centennial celebration of B.B. There's also a Mississippi stage and Roses, Roses on Armitage. They have their own stage and tent now, which is huge. The thing is, you need a hoverboard in Millennium Park to go from one stage to the other. It's crazy. There's a juke joint stage, a Mississippi juke joint with people like John Primer will be there, Johnny Rawls. There's just phenomenal music everywhere. And then this year, at the top of the Harris Theater, they're going to have children's music. One of our guests is going to be on that stage, Wendy and DB, if you remember them. Fernando Jones, his camp, they're going to be performing Vander Cook, the Bronzeville Revival Band. So there's going to be music throughout. And then after Friday night, there is a big pro jam. It's the Blues Pro Jam at Reggie's on the south, kind of the South Loop. And that's going to have featured 94-year-old Bob Stroger, Billy Flynn, Dave Katzman, and just like a huge, huge blowout on Friday. On Saturday, which is going to be really, really great, Kingfish, the young phenom who they're saying is the next B.B. King. He's going to be headlining. It's going to be opened by Lori Bell and Frank Catalano. And that's going to be pretty phenomenal. Then Saturday night at 2120, you know what that is, right? 2120 South Michigan Avenue is Chess Records, and they're doing an after party. And then Sunday is the big blowout, because the headliner for that night is Mavis Staples. Oh, and I forgot, Saturday there was a tribute to all of the listeners who remember Denise LaSalle. Denise LaSalle is going to be on Saturday. Sunday at 3 p.m. is the Chess Records 75th anniversary, led by my good friend Joe Pratt. He was a music director for Otis Clay, and it's his band with Mud Morganfield and Joe Barr and Mitzi Collier and everybody that is going to be doing 2 songs in honor of all the great artists that played at Chess Records. And then, let's not forget, there's more than the blues. There's Katie and James, Lake J. It's Sleeping Village. I believe that's on Saturday night. A great little new bar on Belmont Avenue.
3734 Belmont, June 2nd, Saturday. Thank you, Lynn Orman. Thank you very much for all that information. I could hardly process it. There's so much great stuff going on here in Chicago. We're going to take a short musical break. We'll be back with the one and only Adam James. He's going to give us his early summer sports report. Stay tuned here on the left end of your dial, or however you're getting the Live from the Heartland show. We're here for you, and we're glad you're listening in or viewing. Be right back.
I wrote this song for you, Pops. I hope wherever you are, you can hear me. It's just to say I love you. So many things went unsaid. This is for you, Pops.
Welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of May 30th. I'm still Michael James, and I'm glad to be here. Bringing on my cousin Adam James, a longtime sports aficionado, played football at Northwestern, deep into the martial arts, and he has been gifting us once a month with his view on what's going on in the great world of sports, both the positive and the negative. So with that said, hello to you, Adam. Good morning to you out there in California. Thanks for joining us. What's up?
Good morning. It's great to see you. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Great show as always. Yeah, so with the sporting world, we continue, of course, to have wonderful, excellent activities there. There's some amazing sports happening right now as we go into the summer months. This is one of the best times of the year to be an athlete, to be playing sports, to be a fan, to be watching sports. So right now, of course, we have some major sports, some national sports going on. As people are tuning into this show, the NBA is approaching its finals. There's some exciting action there. NHL and their Stanley Cup is coming up as well. So those are both kind of happening right now. Very exciting. And then in baseball, the Chicago Cubs playing great. White Sox working hard, trying to get better. Some amazing things happening in the baseball world as well. Northwestern, their baseball team, men's baseball team, played very well this year. They had a really strong season, didn't make the tournament, but they played great, and there's a lot of positive momentum there.
What about the Northwestern women's teams? They've been kicking butt.
They sure have.
They didn't quite go all the way on it, but give us a report and some detail, because I remember when you were playing football up there, you would bring some athletes around the Heartland Cafe, and There was a woman who was a field hockey player.
Yes.
That was a girlfriend of one of your fellow football players, and I remember watching her play, and I'm just always, I know Northwestern doesn't have a track and field team, but they got about every other team.
They do. They have a fantastic program from the top to bottom, all of the different sports, the men's and the women's. The women's teams have been playing exceptionally well, as we've just got great athletes, great focus. The women's golf team competed at a very high level all year, got to the tournament and played spectacular. They got to the finals against Stanford, and they won. They are the national championships, first time ever for Northwestern women's golf team. A tremendous accomplishment. Way to go, ladies. Tremendous. Go Cats. Also, the women's lacrosse team had a phenomenal season, played exceptionally well in the tournament, got all the way to the finals, where they played the current defending national championship and one of the dynasties in the women's lacrosse, North Carolina, University of North Carolina. Northwestern's women came very close to upsetting them in the finals. They came up short. They are the runners-up, but what a great season for them as well. And then speaking of the field hockey, women's field hockey, that team at Northwestern continues to play exceptionally well. They are the defending national champions. They will be playing for another national championship. You watch later this year.
Oh, I got to check that out. Maybe I'll go. I don't know where they're going to play, here in Chicago area or somewhere else.
That's a good question. I think the finals are going to be in Michigan, if I remember correctly. But regardless, they'll have a great season. The women have an amazing facility on the campus there. If you are in Chicago and you love watching collegiate sports, come up to Evanston, watch some Northwestern women's sports teams, and of course, the football team. Right now is an exciting time for football fans because while they're not playing, they're planning. They're training and getting ready, and the camps are starting soon. So right now, the NFL just had their draft. Teams are moving as far as free agencies going on. The Bears have a lot of hype around them, a lot of excitement. They have, of course, that star quarterback coming back. He's going to have a lot expected from him because he was the number 1 draft pick, Caleb Williams. But he's got some great tools, and he's got a great new head coach, Coach Johnson. Ben Johnson should do a great job with the Chicago Bears. Be excited, Bear fans. And then with the college football, a lot of people are still a little bit, unsettled with that because of how they've changed so much. And with the transfer portal and the NLI, the likeness money that they can make, and the image. So there's a lot of action there. There's a lot of change. And so some people are unsettled with that.
Well, that's been going on for a little bit now, and there's a lot of controversy still about what athletes get paid. What's your take, as someone who observes this, about the portal? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
Where people can switch teams and people are now making money. What do you think the impact? I mean, we always rooted for the athletes, and we're glad that there were some changes. How do you think it's going?
Well, there are some people that aren't happy about it. And usually it's more of a traditional sports fan who, loves their team and they don't want to see these players come in and then leave. I'm for the players. I believe in the athletes and I believe in freedom. And I think that just as a student at any university after the semester is up, they can transfer to another school. It's not easy. It takes some effort, but it's legal and fair to do that. Likewise, I myself can quit my job and take another job somewhere else. If I act professionally, I give a proper notice and I make sure that I've done all the right things. Well, this is what these young athletes are experiencing right now. Many of them want to change where they're at. They don't feel like this is the right school for them. They want to go on a new opportunity. The transfer portal allows that. Some people are very unhappy about the high level of money that's flowing into this to this sport now. However, again, I'm for the athletes. The athletes are generating that money and they deserve their fair share. So this is how it is currently, but it isn't how it's going to be long term. There's still some changes that are happening. That's why fans who are upset about the current, status, voice your opinions. Make sure you're letting your university know how you feel about it, and I'm sure they're doing their best to both be legal and care for the athlete, and at the same time protect the legacy of those programs and make sure that they continue to put out a great football team each year.
We didn't talk about talking about this, but what about the draft, both the NFL draft and the NBA draft? Do you have any take on, I know Deion's kid didn't get drafted till late, and there was a lot of talk about that. Fill us in a little bit about the draft process for both basketball and football and your take on the way it's going.
Awesome. Yes, sir. So the NFL draft is already completed. The Bears had a very solid draft. Many people think they had an exceptional draft. They definitely put a lot of attention on their offensive line, and they did quite well. And then overall, there were a number of trends with this particular draft. Some of the big stories, one of which was Deion Sanders' son dropping in the draft. Many people expected him to go very high. He was drafted late in the draft. But that is part of the process of, it's basically like one great big job interview at this NFL draft and how they go about finding the right athlete for the right team. Yeah. So there were some interesting trends with this particular draft, one of which was this star quarterback from the University of Colorado, Deion Sanders' son, dropping in the draft, finally being taken by the Cleveland Browns, who already had drafted another quarterback earlier in the draft and had picked up a couple of free agents. So, this is all part of the process of the NFL draft. It's one great big job interview. You hope you get the right, person for the job. Sometimes they turn out to be great. Sometimes they don't. And that's where good teams constantly work the draft, do the best they can, but then don't get too hung up if they've made a mistake. You got to be able to move forward. Speaking of the draft, and you also asked about the NBA, that draft hasn't happened yet. But they've done the lottery draw, which ended up being quite controversial because the Dallas Mavericks, who had lost their star player, Luka Doncic, suddenly found themselves with the number 1 draft pick. there was like a 1.5% chance that they would get it. And so many people were unhappy that somehow that happened. It kind of reminded him of when the New York Knicks got Patrick Ewing in the draft, and people said, really? By the way, the word is that the Chicago Bulls did a coin flip with Dallas before the draft to determine their positioning. And if the Bulls had won that coin flip, they would have been the 1.5% team that ended up with the number 1 draft pick and this superstar player from Duke.
Well, I wish it had worked our way. Although I do see ex-Bull players doing real well out there in the playoffs. There's on Oklahoma has, what's the guy's name?
Caruso. Yes.
I love that guy. And
yes.
I mean, I'm not necessarily rooting for the Oklahoma team, but I love watching him play. And he was one of us for a while.
Yes. And Bulls fans should feel good about their future, though, because the guy they traded for, Josh Giddey, had played really, really well. He actually improved this year, which is a really good sign for a young player. He's very young. He has a lot of potential to get even better. They've got so many good players, White, and just so many really good up-and-coming guys on that team. Chicago Bulls should feel good about their future, and Chicago fans should feel good about the Bears and the Bulls, the Cubs, and the White Sox, too. There's a lot of potential for some good things.
Yeah, the White Sox have been losing by 1 run or 2 runs. They've been in a lot of games. They made a lot of changes. We have talked about most sports, but we have yet to talk about soccer. Yeah. And I know that there's some big soccer tournaments coming up. There's some big victories going on. There was a tragedy over in Liverpool where they were celebrating a victory. Talk a little bit about soccer, Adam.
Well, soccer, of course, is internationally the number 1 sport in the world. It is something that really connects with a lot of people culturally, whether you're from a South or Central American country that loves the sport of football, or whether you're from Europe and you're a big fan of the big European teams, no matter where you are in the world, Africa, Asia, soccer, football is a big part of sports. And in Chicago, soccer is a really big deal. There's a tremendous soccer activity level in Chicago. There's a lot of people that play soccer, are fans of soccer. So I'm really glad we're adding a little extra time on this sports segment to talk about soccer. So this summer, there are 2 huge tournaments going on in the United States. The United States will be hosting the CONCACAF. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm not a soccer fan, obviously. But it is the biggest tournament of North and Central America. It's a tournament the United States and Mexico and Canada are the only teams to have ever won. Canada just once. The United States and Mexico have kind of split it over the years. Mexico's got a little bit of an edge on us right now. But that's going to be a really exciting tournament happening here in the United States. Hopefully the USA team will play well. And do well in this tournament, hopefully win it. That's the CONCACAF Gold Cup.
What are the call letters of that?
It is CONCACAF, CONCACAF. And it stands for the Confederation of North, Central America, and Caribbean Association Football, CONCACAF. Anyway, so they're doing the Gold Cup, they call it. And so it's the national teams from all the major countries in North and Central America. Predominantly, the United States and Mexico have dominated this tournament. One or the other has won. Canada did win it 1 year. Panama is a really great team, and they played very well. They've got a chance to win it. What is the other country? Costa Rica also plays extremely well. They have a very good team, have a chance to win it. And I believe the other one may have been Jamaica, if I remember correctly. Anyway, the other tournament going on is a club tournament. This is where some of the world's greatest soccer clubs or football clubs who qualify for this tournament play in what's called the Club Cup. And this year, that will be held in the United States. And that will be having teams like, the major teams from Europe. It'll have a couple of teams from the United States. And that is going to be a lot of fun as well. So if you're a fan of the sport of soccer, some of the greatest players in the world will be in North America this summer playing. Unfortunately, none of the games will be played in Chicago. Chicago is not one of the host cities for this tournament, and apparently not for the World Cup, I believe. However, just a short drive away, you've got St. Louis, which will be a host for one of the games.
Adam, we only got a minute left, so tell us a little bit about Adam.
Well, what I'd love to share with everybody is As the summer approaches, obviously it's a great time to watch sports. This is the time to play sports. This is the time to get out there and work out. The weather changes, it gets warm. I encourage people to start your exercise program. Be sure to talk to your doctor first if you haven't exercised or exercised in a long time. But if you're healthy and you're ready, get out there, go for it. This is the time, the summer months, go hiking, go walking, go swimming, grab a ball, go out and play ball with your friends, volleyball. There's great beach volleyball in Chicago. If you're a fan of beach volleyball, get out there and play. Baseball, softball, soccer, put on some gloves, do some boxing, have some fun. This is the time of year to really get active.
Give us the bonus here on the sports report of both boxing and sumo wrestling.
Yes. So the other day, I had a really great time. I was watching both the boxing matches from England, which was a really tremendous card there. The English, the Europeans, they love boxing. It's very, very popular there. And then at the same time, I was flipping back and forth on the channel to sumo. In Japan, in the month of May, is one of the biggest Grand Sumo championships of the year. And this massive tournament was really a lot of fun to watch. I grew up in Hawaii watching sumo, so I'm a fan of the sport. I've seen some great sumo, players over the years. What you want to know is that there is a title, a rank that you can achieve if you've won multiple championships. It's called yokozuna. And a sumo player who reaches that has an extreme high level of presence. There's only been 74 yokozuna in modern sumo history. In this tournament, there was a player who is fantastic, young 24-year-old. He's Ozeki, which is the rank just below yokozuna. And he had a fantastic tournament. He went undefeated. He'd won the whole tournament already when he went into the final match and had a matchup against the yokozuna, the current yokozuna. So it was really a great match. Lastly, there was also a young Ukrainian, I noticed, a 21-year-old Ukrainian who got into sumo when he was 7 years old, judo and sumo in Ukraine. He went on to become a champion in Ukraine. He is now in Japan. He actually had to get out of the country when the war broke out. He had to be kind of smuggled out and went to Germany and eventually to Japan. He's competing at an extremely high level. He had a phenomenal tournament, finished 9-4 in this tournament and won the Fighting Spirit Award. So he's only 21 years old. He's got a great future ahead of him.
Adam James, thanks for the sports report. We'll see you soon. Everybody else, we want to thank you for tuning into the show. Last week we had The Puppeteer with Free Street Theater, Rocio Chio Cabrera, and we had Todd Zaruba of Undercover Books. I will be at Undercover Books on Saturday the 31st doing a reading from my latest book. Next week, we're going to have the All Chicago Tenants Alliance people on. If you are able, we would appreciate any donations to this show. It costs us money to put it together. Contact us at liveFromTheHeartlandShow@gmail. And I want to remind you once again that my son Katie in Lake James and his group, Lake J, will be performing at Sleeping Village, 3734 West Belmont on Saturday the 7th. And remember, in memoriam, the 54,000 plus people who have been killed in Gaza, mostly women and children. Thank you to our guests today, Adam James, Lynn Orman, and Mud Morganfield. Keep doing good in the world. The world needs all the good that you do, that I do, that we all do together. All power to the people. Over and out. See you next week. We want to thank you for watching the Live from the Heartland show. New episodes air every Friday beginning at 9 a.m. Central Time. Episodes air each following Thursday on CAN TV, 9 p.m. in Sweet Home Chicago on Channel 21 or streaming everywhere else at cantv.org. Audio episodes go live on WLUW each Saturday, 9 a.m. on the left end of your dial at 88.7 FM or streaming everywhere worldwide at WLUW.org. They're available on Apple and Spotify podcasts by looking up Live from the Heartland on either platform and are also broadcast on Lumpen Radio each Friday at 9 a.m. on 105.5 FM and streaming at lumpenradio.com. I'm Michael James, and I'm glad to have been your host. Until next time, remember, do good in the world because the world needs all the good that you do, that I do, that we do together. All power to the people. Over and out.
Come to Limbo. Are you doing the best you can? Tell me, are you doing